Under a quiet bridge in Harborview, a young woman kneels, offering a warm meal to a forgotten man. Night after night she returns, ignoring the whispers of skeptics. Years later, on her wedding day, a stranger in a crisp uniform steps forward, saluting, ready to walk her down the aisle. This is the story of Lena Marquez and the lives changed by her silent kindness. Lena Marquez moved with quiet precision in the kitchen of the Salty Spoon, a cozy diner in Harborview, a coastal town where fishing boats bobbed in the harbor and tourists mingled with locals. At 27, Lena was the diner's lead cook, her hands deft as she chopped vegetables and plated orders. Her dark curls were tucked under a bandana, and her warm brown eyes held a focus that belied her gentle smile. After the evening rush, when the last customers lingered over coffee, Lena prepared an extra meal, a container of hearty stew, a roll, and a slice of pie, all packed with care. "You feeding your ghost again?" teased Carlos, the line cook, as he scrubbed a pan. His tone was light, no judgment in it. Lena just nodded, sealing the container. "Everyone deserves a good meal," she said simply. Every night after her shift, Lena walked the same route home, detouring past a concrete overpass near the edge of the town. Beneath it lived a small group of homeless people, their tents and blankets tucked against the pillars. Among them was a man who kept to himself, always at the far end, his gray hair tied back, his clothes worn but tidy. He never begged, never spoke unless spoken to. Lena had noticed him 2 years ago, his quiet dignity reminding her of her late grandfather, a Cuban immigrant who'd taught her to cook and to care for those the world overlooked. That first night, she'd offered him her own dinner, a sandwich from her lunch break. His eyes, a sharp green that seemed to see through her, had widened in surprise. "Thank you," he'd said, his voice low but clear. That was enough for Lena. She'd return the next night and the next, making it a ritual. She never asked his name, respecting the distance he seemed to prefer, but she always left the meal with a small nod. Her neighbors, though, weren't as understanding. Mrs. Callahan, who lived in Lena's apartment building, often watched from her window. Her lips pursed. "You're enabling them," she'd say, loud enough for others to hear. "They'll just keep taking." Lena never argued. She'd learned from her grandfather that kindness didn't need defending. It just needed doing. One chilly November evening, as Lena left her building with the night's meal, Mrs. Callahan was outside with a friend. "Feeding strays won't fix them," she called, her voice sharp. Her friend snickered. Lena kept walking, her breath visible in the cold air. She'd heard it all before, co-workers calling her naive, friends wondering why she bothered. But her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. "Kindness is a seed. Plant it and let it grow." Under the overpass, the man was in his usual spot, wrapped in a thin jacket. Lena set the meal down, noticing his hands trembling from the cold. Without a word, she pulled a knit scarf from her bag and placed it beside the container. "Stay warm," she said softly, the first words she'd spoken to him in months. His green eyes met hers, and he nodded, a faint smile breaking through his weathered face. On her walk home, Lena caught her reflection in a shop window. No halo, no cape, just a woman with a backpack and a purpose. She didn't need approval. She just needed to know she'd made one person's night a little better. The ritual continued, steady as the tides in Harborview. Lena's life was busy, long shifts at the diner, helping her younger sister with college applications, saving for a place of her own. But the detour to the overpass never felt like a burden. It was part of her rhythm, like breathing. The man under the bridge became a quiet constant, his presence as familiar as the diner's neon sign. One rainy spring night, the wind whipped at Lena's umbrella as she approached the overpass. The man was there, hunched against the concrete, his jacket soaked. Lena set down her umbrella, pulling a waterproof poncho from her bag. "This was my grandfather's," she said, breaking their usual silence. "It'll keep you dry." He looked up, his green eyes sharp despite the storm. For a moment he studied her as if weighing her words. Then he took the poncho, his fingers brushing the plastic. "Thank you," he said, his voice stronger than she'd expected. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Lena replied, smiling. "But I want to." The next morning, a folded note was tucked into her apartment door. "Thank you for treating me like a person." The handwriting was neat, deliberate, not what Lena expected from someone living under a bridge. She pinned it to her fridge, her heart swelling. It was the first crack in the wall of silence between them. After that, Lena started leaving notes with the meals, small, unobtrusive messages. "Hope you like the chili. It's my abuelo's recipe. Stay warm tonight. It's gonna dip below. Freezing. The pie's apple today. Let me know if you prefer cherry." Sometimes she'd find a reply at her door the next day. "Chili was perfect. Thank you. Cherry's my favorite." The notes were never personal, just a quiet exchange, like two people passing a ball back and forth, careful not to overstep. Months passed, and the notes became a bridge of their own. Lena learned he liked spicy food, preferred coffee over tea, and had a soft spot for blueberry muffins. He never shared his name, and she didn't ask, but the connection felt real. Then, one summer evening, he wasn't there. Lena left the meal anyway, hoping he'd return. The next night the container was untouched. A week later, she stopped bringing food, her heart heavy with worry. Had he moved on? Was he okay? 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived at the Salty Spoon, addressed to the cook who brings meals. Inside was a card. "Your kindness gave me the courage to start over. I found a place to stay and a reason to keep going. Thank you." No signature, but Lena knew. She sat in the diner's break room, the card in her hands, tears blurring the words. She hoped he was safe, wherever he was. Life moved forward. Lena was promoted to head chef, her dishes drawing crowds to the diner. She started dating Javier, a carpenter with a warm laugh who admired her compassion. When he proposed a year later, she said yes, though the joy was bittersweet. Her grandfather, who'd raised her after her parents died, wouldn't be there to see it. She'd planned to walk down the aisle alone, a nod to her independence. One evening, Lena walked past the overpass, no longer part of her route. She paused, her eyes catching a small seashell placed where she used to leave meals. It felt like a sign, a quiet thank you from someone she'd never forgotten. As her wedding approached, she wondered about the man, hoping her small acts had mattered. Lena's story had quietly spread through Harborview. Regulars at the Salty Spoon whispered about the cook who fed the homeless, and co-workers like Carlos started pitching in, saving leftovers for Lena's nightly runs. The diner's owner, Rosa, a tough but kind woman, began donating day-old bread and pastries. "You're doing good, Lena," Rosa said. "Don't let the naysayers stop you." Mrs. Callahan, though, remained vocal. "You're wasting food," she'd say, catching Lena leaving with a container. But others in the building started to notice. A neighbor, Mr. Patel, slipped Lena $20 to buy extra supplies. A local church offered blankets for her to distribute. The overpass community, small but tight-knit, began to see Lena as more than a stranger. They'd wave when she approached, some even sharing their names. Lena saw potential in this. She met with Rosa and a local outreach worker, Elena, to brainstorm ways to expand her efforts. "It's not just about food," Lena said. "It's about giving people a chance to feel seen." They sketched out a plan for a program, Harborview, Hearts, pairing local businesses with shelters to provide meals and job training. Lena's nightly ritual became the blueprint. The community rallied. A barber offered free haircuts. A laundromat donated washing services. Elena connected Lena with a city official, Councilwoman Teresa Ruiz, who saw the program's potential. "This could be a model for other towns," Teresa said, "but it needs structure, funding, volunteers, a real plan." Lena wasn't a planner by nature, but she dove in, spending her days off meeting with Elena and Teresa, drafting proposals and rallying volunteers. Harborview Hearts launched with a pilot, helping 5 people with meals, clothing, and job leads. Lena's nights at the overpass stopped, but only because she was now delivering meals to shelters, teaching others to do the same. The work was exhausting. Lena's savings dwindled, and her shifts at the diner left her drained. Javier worried, urging her to slow down. "You're carrying too much," he said one night, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Let others help." "I will," Lena promised, but her heart wouldn't let her stop. She thought of her grandfather, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep her fed, and of the man under the bridge, whose absence still tugged at her. She kept his notes on her fridge, a reminder of why she did this. One day, Carlos showed her a social media post about Harborview Hearts, shared by a local news page. It featured a photo of Lena at the diner packing a meal with a caption, "One woman's kindness is changing Harborview." The post had hundreds of likes and comments poured in, stories of others inspired to help, offers of donations, even a message from a woman who'd seen Lena at the overpass and started her own meal program. Lena was stunned. She'd never sought attention, but the support was undeniable. Teresa invited her to speak at a town hall, where Lena shared her vision. "This isn't about me. It's about seeing people, not their circumstances." The council approved a small grant for Harborview Hearts, and businesses signed on, offering jobs and supplies. As Lena's 28th birthday approached, Javier and Rosa started planning something behind her back. They'd noticed how much she gave, how little she took for herself. "She deserves to be celebrated," Javier told Rosa. They enlisted Elena, Carlos, and even Mrs. Callahan, who'd softened after reading about Lena's work. The plan was simple but big, a surprise event to honor Lena, tied to her upcoming wedding. The buzz around Harborview Hearts grew, but Lena stayed focused, unaware of the plans forming around her. Javier, Rosa, and Elena were plotting a surprise for her wedding, set for June 15th. They wanted to honor her work and her kindness, and they had a hunch about someone who'd want to be there, the man from the overpass. Elena, with her outreach, contacts tracked him down. His name was Victor Salazar, a retired Navy officer who'd fallen on hard times after a battle with PTSD. He'd entered a veterans program after leaving Harborview, rebuilding his life. When Elena reached out, explaining Lena's wedding and her impact, Victor didn't hesitate. "I owe her everything," he said. "I'll be there." The wedding was to be held at a small seaside chapel, with the reception at the Salty Spoon. Lena had planned to walk down the aisle alone. Her grandfather was gone, and her uncle was too frail to travel. She was at peace with it, but Javier knew it weighed on her. He kept the surprise secret, coordinating with Victor and the community. Meanwhile, Lena threw herself into Harborview Hearts. The pilot program was thriving, with 3 participants now employed, one at a fishery, another at a grocery store. Lena met with them weekly, offering encouragement, her grandfather's recipes a staple in their meals. But the pace was wearing her down. She skipped meals, slept little, and ignored the headaches creeping in. Rosa noticed. "You're not a machine, Lena," she said one night, handing her a coffee. "You've started something amazing. Let it carry itself for a bit." Lena nodded, but the work felt too urgent. She didn't know Victor was back in Harborview, staying at a shelter, preparing for her wedding. He'd spent the past year in a veterans program, reconnecting with his estranged daughter, finding purpose in counseling others. Lena's meals, her notes, her quiet respect had been his lifeline, reminding him of the man he'd been, a decorated officer, a father, a survivor. The day before the wedding, Javier and Elena finalized plans. The chapel would be filled with locals, volunteers, and program participants. Victor would wait at the entrance, ready to step forward. They'd also organized a reception at the diner, with a special announcement for Harborview Hearts. Mrs. Callahan, now a volunteer, donated decorations, her earlier skepticism replaced by admiration. On June 15th, Lena stood in the chapel's anteroom, her white dress simple but elegant. The absence of her grandfather felt heavy, but she squared her shoulders, ready to walk alone. As the music began, she stepped toward the doors, her heart pounding. Then she saw him. A tall man in a navy dress uniform, medals gleaming, stood at attention. His gray hair was neat under his cap, his green eyes unmistakable. The church fell silent as he approached, saluting crisply. "Captain Victor Salazar, United States Navy, retired," he said, his voice steady. "It would be my honor to escort you down the aisle, if you'll allow me." Lena's breath caught. "It's you," she whispered, tears welling. He nodded, the same nod she'd seen under the overpass. The crowd murmured, sensing the weight of the moment. Victor's presence was a shock, but Lena felt a rush of recognition and joy. "Yes," she said, taking his arm. As they walked down the aisle, Victor spoke softly. His words meant only for her. "2 years ago, I was lost," he said. "PTSD took everything, my career, my family, my hope. Then you showed up, night after night, with food and respect. You didn't just feed me. You reminded me I was worth something." Lena's tears fell freely now, but she kept her head high. The guests, piecing together the story, watched in awe. Javier stood at the altar, his eyes shining with pride. When they reached him, Victor placed Lena's hand in Javier's, then stepped back, saluting once more. To everyone's surprise, he unpinned a medal, a Navy Cross, and pressed it into Lena's bouquet. "For courage and compassion," he said, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "You saved me without knowing it." The ceremony continued, but the moment lingered, transforming the day into something deeper. Lena and Javier's vows included a promise to keep seeing the unseen, to honor every person's dignity. Victor sat in a reserved pew, his daughter beside him, her hand in his. Lena hadn't known about their reunion, but seeing them together warmed her heart. The reception at the Salty Spoon was more than a party. It was a celebration of Harborview Hearts. Victor spoke to the crowd, sharing his story. A decorated officer who'd served for 25 years, only to lose himself to trauma. "Lena's kindness was my anchor," he said. "She didn't just give me meals, she gave me back my humanity." The room was silent, then erupted in applause. Teresa Ruiz announced that the town had secured a state grant for Harborview Hearts, expanding it to help dozens more. Lena, overwhelmed, thanked everyone, her voice shaking. "I just did what felt right," she said. "You all made it bigger than I ever dreamed." The night ended with music, laughter, and stories. Mrs. Callahan approached Lena, her eyes soft. "I was wrong," she said. "I didn't see what you saw in him. My son struggled after his service. I wish someone had been there for him like you were for Victor." Lena hugged her, the weight of the day sinking in. She and Javier danced under string lights, the diner glowing with warmth. Victor joined them for a toast, raising a glass to small acts that change everything. Harborview Hearts became a beacon in the town. The program grew, partnering with more businesses and shelters, helping dozens find stability. Lena stepped into a leadership role, balancing it with her work at the diner. Victor became a key figure, using his military experience to streamline operations and advocate for veterans. He and his daughter rebuilt their bond, and he began speaking at events, sharing how one person's kindness had pulled him back from the edge. The story spread beyond Harborview. A local reporter wrote a piece that went viral. How 1,000 Meals Changed a Town. Messages poured in from across the country, inspiring similar programs. Lena and Javier, now married, channeled the attention into action, training volunteers to deliver meals with respect and consistency. It's not about handouts, Lena told them. It's about connection. Lena's health improved as she learned to delegate, leaning on Javier, Rosa, and Victor. The overpass, once a place of quiet exchanges, became a symbol of hope, marked by a small plaque honoring Harborview Hearts. Lena visited it sometimes, leaving a seashell in memory of her grandfather and Victor. On their first anniversary, Lena and Javier returned to the Salty Spoon, where it all began. Victor joined them, now living in a small apartment, counseling veterans full-time. "You gave me a second chance," he told Lena, handing her a note. "Your grandfather would be proud. You've built a bridge stronger than any concrete." The program's impact rippled outward. Mrs. Callahan became a regular volunteer. Her perspective shifted. The town council, led by Teresa, passed policies to address homelessness, inspired by Lena's work. Harborview wasn't perfect, but it was changing. One meal, one connection at a time. Lena's story became a reminder. Kindness doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Small, consistent acts can rebuild lives, even if the full impact remains unseen. She kept Victor's medal on her fridge, next to his first note, a testament to the power of seeing someone as they could be. If Lena's story touched you, please support our channel. Subscribe, share, and join us in celebrating the quiet heroes who change lives every day. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you.